Hello and welcome. Our webinar today is about cyber threats facing small utilities and the Community Defense Program. We are so glad to have you all here. Just as an FYI, the session is being recorded. As we go through the discussion today, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A. We will make our best effort to make sure all the questions get answered during the webinar today. My name is Umair Masud. I am the Director of Product at Dragos. I product manage the Community Defense Program, OT Watch, Neighborhood Keeper, a couple of other things. And today's topic is extremely important, and I'm excited to be your moderator today for today's discussion. We will be covering why the Community Defense Program exists, what challenges we here at Dragos have seen in the community, and what role we are hoping to play to make some positive change in the community. We also are going to discuss details of the program itself, the eligibility requirements, how to join. And for those that are here today, because they also want to contribute back to the community, we will discuss what role you can play as well. But with that, I want to let our speakers today introduce themselves really quick. I will let Dawn introduce herself first, and then Rob, so he can roll into the first couple of topics. So go ahead, Dawn.
Hi, I'm Dawn Cappelli. I was the CISO at Rockwell Automation for 6 years, retired in 2022 for 2 months, and then decided that I couldn't resist coming out of retirement to work at Dragos to work on OT-CERT, which we'll talk about a little later.
Perfect. And I'm Rob Lee, the CEO and co-founder here at Dragos. My background's military and U.S. intelligence community, all focused on identifying threats to infrastructure. And I've been obviously out in the community for a long time in a variety of roles here, teaching at SANS, contributing in various organizations like the Department of Energy's Electricity Advisory Committee and so forth. So it's been fun to watch the community. It's been fun to be part of the community over the last decade plus. And I've always had this view that we just simply don't do a lot for our smaller players. Now, that is not everybody. There are some companies that do a lot and go out of the way for those smaller players. And there's some of those smaller players that are doing a lot as well. So it's not a statement of, oh, if you're small, you're probably not doing anything. That's an overgeneralization. What the statement is if you're small, you may not have all the resources to do the things you know you need to do or you know you want to do. And I think, without trying to make this any contentious, I think that there's a lot of talk that happens, whether it's in policy circles or just at conferences, about how we should really do things to help these smaller players. And if it happens, it's usually like, oh, we did an assessment, or, oh, well, we gave them this like tool to fill out to help them do a self-assessment. And like those things are not without value. But when you're talking about threats to infrastructure, one of the biggest challenges many companies have is we just don't know what's going on inside those organizations. Like essentially the lights are turned off inside the networks. We don't have the visibility of what do we even have, how are they connected, what are the vulnerabilities that actually matter, could we even detect the threats that we're talking about. And though personnel are always going to be a major component of that, we really just don't get the tools out to those folks either. And so it can be a real challenge. And we know that adversaries target those smaller players as well. Sure, there's the sort of significant increase in exposure based on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Sure, there's the cyber vendors hacktivist stuff that we've been seeing in the media, but those are isolated examples and public examples. There are a lot more non-public examples. We work in cases all the time where ransomware and so forth hitting these smaller locations. And also it follows decent logic that a number of those state actors do actually target the smaller players for a number of reasons. One, they may have their own motivations and motives to do so, but two, more commonly, it's in a very effective place to train and get experience before trying to go after larger targets, especially when you talk about the OT side of the house, that operation technology side. If you want to build out a Windows domain controller environment to test out what the IT network of a electric company might be, you can pull that off. There's a lot of information out there, easy to get resources. Like you build a lab in a government organization and go test that. When you're talking about actually having water, electric, and gas infrastructure on the operations side, you're not going to have all the combinations of PLCs. You may not even know how to configure it correctly to do the physical process. Like it's not just a lab you're popping up in Moscow to like go emulate all of that. And so it's a very valuable thing for adversaries to be able to target the smaller players in such a way that they're getting experience and capability development and knowledge. But also there is real value in targeting those smaller players as well. You know, a lot of people think of like the doomsday scenarios of, oh, the grid is going to go down. And we'll remind people like, yeah, there's not one grid, and it's, you know, it's multiple electric systems, and here's all the complexity to it. But either way, that's the thing that captures people's attention. But if you actually want to impact things, one of the real risks out there is hitting smaller locations is well below any threshold to elicit a government level response that's any bit meaningful. Yet scaring the public, causing impact, even loss of life, all those things are very, very possible. I just would note, like, imagine a scenario where 4 months ahead of the election, there's an electric outage or a gas outage or a water outage in some small key swing states, as an example, or small districts in swing states. And what does that do in terms of people feeling confidence and trusting in the administration that's currently in whichever, you know, any given year, it doesn't matter which administration, but generally when people feel unsafe or insecure, like constantly polling shows, they blame the incumbent administration if they're feeling insecure or exposed. And so there's just a lot of reasons and methods to go after those folks, but also criminals. Like, criminals are in for the paycheck, hitting anybody and everybody they can get access to. And we've seen a ton of small infrastructure sites get compromised and get ransomed and have to go through these cases. And it's heartbreaking. And we as a community can just do more. So there's a lot of risk there. Next slide. What I would say is kind of, sort of motivating this for us is we've always talked about this importance of community at Dragos. And we have a tagline, a mission statement, if you will, of safeguarding civilization, which I remember from day one when we started the company, and I was talking to the early employees. I remember being in the old offices, a little whiteboard, like 5 people around the room. And I stated, that's a bold statement. And it could be cliche and it could be hypocritical if we're not careful. If you're going to take on a statement of safeguarding civilization, it cannot be safeguard civilization by only taking care of the biggest players. It can't be safeguarding civilization by only entering into markets where it's massively profitable for us. It can't be safeguarding civilization by only targeting the industry verticals that have the highest close rates, the highest win rates to, sort of push our business forward. Yeah, we're a company. We have to think about, running an efficient and effective company to be able to be here for the long term. But that kind of safeguarding civilization mission statement is not just take care of the big players. It is, how do you also figure out how to contribute back to the community, even when it's not profitable or even cost us? How do you figure out how to get things to the smaller members, which there will be no profit there to do that, or maybe even no cost recovery to do that? Like, how do you contribute and be a voice in the community and do it in the right way? And I think so far, not to drink our own Kool-Aid, but just feedback from our customers and community in general, I think we've been doing a good job on that in a lot of fronts, like our people going out and speak and having articles and white papers and research, the year in review report, et cetera. A lot of these things that are not just like, we don't go to marketing and go, what's the thing that's going to generate the most pipeline through a leads? Let's look at that document. Hey, Intel team, go write that document. Like, that's not how it happens. Of course, we're aware of those types of things. And of course, we're trying to run a business, but a lot of times it's just organic on, hey, cool, what's happening around the community? And we have a point of view, let's offer it. We publish guides and resources all the time on stuff that has nothing to do with what we sell. It's just based on our experience and being in the community, we find it can be useful and helpful. And I think that helps us stay grounded in the community, constantly going out and supporting things like the CTF that we run, the Capture the Flag, just free training essentially for people throughout the community. Like, there's just a lot of things that we've done that we feel good about. But the gap for me was, but we have this technology and we know it's really good. Every technology's got its areas to improve, but we know it's capable. We get involved in cases all the time where our customers are using it to find vulnerabilities and issues ahead of time, where they're using it for operational purposes and trying to prevent downtime, where it's catching threats and we're getting to respond, and we're getting to see them respond to threats and state actors mid intrusions instead of after something happens. So we were like, yeah, it works. It's good. How does it get to the smaller players? Because again, going back, it can't be safeguarding civilization for just the big players. And so what essentially happened, I know there's like a timeline stuff we'll talk about at the end, but like essentially happened, and I give my team a lot of credit for putting up with me on this. But when Ukraine got invaded by Russia, I just felt, especially with my background working with the Ukrainians before and getting to respond to the 2015 electric outage and stuff, I don't know, there's a certain like tug on the heartstrings aspect to that as well. And I woke up and saw the news and I was like, God, if there's going to be a time that there's blowback on U.S. infrastructure now, and we can't just sit by and not do something. So we ended up launching the program, but again, apologies to my team. They learned about it from me tweeting. I posted it in Slack as well because I woke up, I was like, this is just too much. We are going to do something. And so I put out a message that said, look, for as many as we're able to do, because there's real cost to us, but I don't know if it's 10, if it's 20, if it's 30, but for as many as we can do, just if you're a small provider of electric, gas, or water infrastructure, reach out to us. We're gonna get you taken care of, and it'll be free for life. We'll just take care of you. And I hate to have anybody learn the company strategy from a public message, but I just felt compelled. And luckily, my team didn't chastise me over it. They came came together and said, "Yeah, of course, that makes total sense. Let's go." And we ended up onboarding. I think it was around 30 or so. I think it was like 50 or 60 that ended up coming forward, or maybe more. But by the time that we got into who could support infrastructure and so forth, I think it was 30 to 40 or so that ended up getting onboarded. And we provided hardware, we provided service, we provided the virtual systems as well and everything. And it cost us a lot. And so I went to my CFO and my team and said, I want to expand this. This is great, because what we were hearing back from those players in the community was, wow, we never got paid attention to before. Like we see the names of the big companies out there, but nobody puts focus on us. And if so, it's like this haphazard approach. Like, this is the first time we're getting really the resource we need. And then over the year, we see like what they were able to do and the successes and the win rates and how motivated they were and how they were using just a little bit of investment by us to go really drive their own investment and time and everything else, and just really kind of lifting up their posture. But yeah, when I said, hey, let's go scale this out, my CFO reminded me, said, hey, that cost us a couple $1 million to do, and it was only like 30 or so. There's big limits to be able to go scale this out. How far do you want to do this? And I was like, well, there's around 55,000 water utilities, around 3,200 electric utilities, and another 1,000 or so gas utilities. And I bet you about 80% of those are below like 100 million in revenue. So a lot. And it's like, rightfully so. He's like, yeah, please don't tweet this. Like, just hold off. Let's figure this out. And so over the last year and a half, my amazing team, the head of product, the head of customer success and sales, and everybody came together and said, okay, well, what are our cost centers here? First big obvious one is hardware. So we don't make network switch gear and so forth. Like, so trying to give away hardware doesn't make sense. And in the software, the database that we use on the back end. So everything developed in Dragos Platform, we develop in-house, and all of our development is here in the United States, just for a control of supply chain purpose. So increase our cost of goods to do that, but it feels good to be able to control our supply chain. Except we do have an Elastic database in it. And Elastic is a fantastic company, and it's a really good database. And we're not a database company, so we use Elastic's database. But there's a royalty fee on every sensor, every server that goes out, that we got to pay them, whether we give it away for free or not. And so that was a huge barrier. We could go all virtual. We could figure out how to go through a standard contract, have a virtual training that's recorded. We could get all these things down to be pretty much no cost for us, or low cost. But that Elastic one was a big gating item. And I called up Ash, their CEO. I was like, here's what we want to do. And here's why. It's the community. We all talk about this stuff, but we got to do something for them. Like, we can. Like, why are we sitting by when we can? And Ash, I don't think, took more than 10 minutes, and the discussion was like, let's do it. And so Ash and Elastic waived that fee completely. So a huge shout out to Elastic on this, where we don't have to pay that fee for those smaller players. Therefore, we can get the virtual software out there, and the Dragos Academy resource and the training, all the stuff that comes in the program, and do it in a way that is really low cost for us, so we can do it for free and forever. And the only way those things come together, the only way that internal to Dragos it gets motivated, the Elastics of the world, the people on this webinar showing up, the ISACs championing it, CISA going out and telling their regional people, like, the only way that happens is people care about this community. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful to see. And I'm really honored and excited just to be part of the community. And I really appreciate all y'all on the call and all the things you're doing. So yeah, let's talk about it. I know Don's going to jump in here in a second as well, but and we'll go item by item. But what I'll say here is there is a program. So it's not just here's some free technology, because we all know somebody's got to implement it, somebody's got to use it, all that kind of stuff. It's not just here's technology. There's a program here of start to finish that can help significantly up level those electric, water, and gas utilities. And I get asked sometimes, like, why electric, gas, and water? So let me just cover that right up front. I'm not saying it'll never change, but there is a reason that it's utilities. And the reason is, for a lot of those players, and when you're talking like 100 million and under, you're talking state level infrastructure. Those companies are all regulated, and there's usually public utilities commissions or similar that determine what they can and can't spend money on, how much cybersecurity budget they get, et cetera. And in most places, cyber is not a discussion point. When you're worried about the quality of the pipes and getting clean water, you're not prioritizing like Russia's coming, kind of cybersecurity discussions. And so the public utility commissions, some of them do a great job. Some of them just aren't educated on the topic, but a lot of them very strictly restrict what those electric, water, and gas companies can do. So they may have people internal that know what to do and want to do it, even up to the full executive management team of that company, and are not allowed to do it. But like, why not a manufacturer? Manufacturing is super important. Well, a lot of those small players are needing of help as well, but they could. And so that was a line for me at the start of this program. And we can agree or disagree, but I want you to just understand the logic behind it, my point of view. If you choose not to do cybersecurity, like, we're not a nonprofit, and you're, in my opinion, at an executive or board level, hiding risk in the margins, and you're choosing not to address those risks because you're worried about the margins, and it's hard. It's hard to be competitive in the manufacturing industry, don't get me wrong, but you could do it if you wanted to. When you're an electric, gas, or water utility in the United States, because of the structure around the regulations, you can't. Like, there's plenty of times you're just not allowed to. So those companies that are essentially likely to not be allowed to, and they're the smaller companies, those are the ones that we're focused on. If you're making a choice, hey, choose what you want to do in life. If you can't get the help, we're going to help you. And that's kind of the motivation and the structure and the reason it was structured that way. But Don, why don't you jump in and take it from here? I think you want to talk about this slide and the next and get an OT-CERT, and I'll jump back and forth and in. But the reality is, like, this is working, and it's only because of all the people on this call and the community. So Don, over to you.
Okay, so the Community Defense Program provides free software technology, which includes the Dragos Platform and Dragos Academy. Rob talked about that. That's free training. The Dragos Platform itself gives you visibility into the assets. What do you have on your network? If you don't know what you have, you can't protect it. The threats in your network and vulnerabilities, and it helps you with vulnerability management. Neighborhood Keeper, to me, this is really, really critical for Community Defense Program participants. And actually, Umair, I think it makes sense to turn it over to you for this part of the slide.
Sure. Yeah, I can cover Neighborhood Keeper and some of these other items as well. Again, extremely excited about being able to do this for the CDP recipients. The platform, as Don mentioned, focused all on being able to add visibility, get that visibility of OT devices within the recipient's environments. But also, we wanted to make sure this is something that is a sustainable program. So the licenses that we're providing are in perpetuity for the Dragos platform, as long as the participants qualify per the requirements we discussed earlier. Keeper is included as a part of the CDP program as well. It is an anonymous OT threat intelligence platform, which essentially allows for the CDP recipients to be able to gain access to OT threat intelligence, not just through Dragos, but through our trusted advisor program as well. The beauty of that is that as our folks, our partners like CISA and DOE are working to track adversaries, they can disseminate out intelligence across to the community. And it's not just reports or briefs, it's actually intelligence that can be actioned through the Dragos platform. So, we've had some great examples of that recently through some of the events that have happened. Obviously we had Volt Typhoon kind of, bubbling up over the holidays. We had some great partnership with CISA around that. To be able to deploy IOCs across the neighborhood keeper participants so that they could, the neighborhood keeper participants could be notified if they were, if they had any Volt Typhoon activity possibly happening. But it's great to be able to, deliver the intelligence and detect it. On top of that, we also want our CDP recipients to be able to have an understanding of, okay, what should they do next? What could be the next action if we're seeing something that is being detected, an emerging threat being detected within their environment. That's where the threat hunting services can also help. It's something that we will be performing on behalf of our CDP recipients, and we believe we've built a great scalable model that allows us to perform threat hunting capabilities across our customer base. And so we wanted to make this available to the CDP recipients as well. In addition to that, I'll let Dawn cover the benefits of the OT-CERT membership. And I'll just quickly touch on the software updates piece in the Dragos Academy. Dragos Academy is also going to be made available to our CDP recipients. The big piece around that is this is not just, as Rob mentioned, this isn't just about technology enablement. It's really about helping our community operationalize OT cyber defense. The only way we can do that is by helping them build out programs, build out the actual OT cybersecurity program, and help educate them on how to do that internally. So we're making available the full catalog of Dragos Academy that comes along with not just Dragos platform training, but comes along with sessions on how to build out an OT cybersecurity program. And we're also making available software updates and knowledge packs for the Dragos platform as well.
Yeah, before you jump in, Don, on OT-CERT, which will take us to the next slide anyways, let me just kind of package this and kind of my view on it. You're a CDP member, you're a electric, water, gas utility under 100 million revenue. You're going to have to up-level personnel, have to learn about ICS security. You're probably, and I'm generalizing here, but you're in a profile, a lot of the ones I've met, passionate, hungry to go, but largely been focused on IT security because a lot of ICS security and everything else is really expensive. And so walk into this program, you sign up, you go through the process, we'll show what that is. You're getting access to Dragos Academy, which has training classes, not just, hey, like Umair said, here's how to deploy the Dragos platform. Nope, that's all there too. That's great. How to deploy it, how to take care of it, how to use it, that's all there. But it's like our 5-day class as an example that we run about, hey, let's start to finish. Welcome to ICS security. Let's kind of take you up that path. It's videos and content our analysts make in the services and intel team because we're creating our own content for our own people as well, just continuing education. So you walk in day one, it's here's all access to the full library of up-leveling yourself and your teammates on ICS skills and ICS expertise. Capture the flags from past or in Dragos Academy as well, where there's like content and packet captures and samples with walkthroughs or with answer keys and similar. So there's a whole like just up-leveling ICS security in general. Then there's let's go get the Dragos platform to you. Then there's all the training and similar around how to deploy it, how to use it, and so forth. Getting the Dragos platform out there, which allows you to have visibility into your infrastructure now. Hey, my firewalls and everything misconfigured. Do I actually see internet connections coming in and out that I shouldn't? I got a bunch of vulnerabilities, but which ones actually matter? We don't just do vulnerability management by saying, here's vulnerabilities and here's the CVSS, here's a score. That's silly. It's not helpful to people. Our intel analysts go through every single one of those vulnerabilities before they upload them and put it into green, yellow, or red. Should you care about this? No? Cool. This one, if you get extra time, red, you should actually address this. That red is like 1 to 2 or like 2 to 4% of the vulnerabilities. Let's really prioritize and focus these people around the community. We all have limited resources and stuff like that. Let's focus people on what actually matters, and then be able to check for threats through threat analysis of like analytics, which is like tactics, techniques, and procedures of adversaries, as well as those IOCs. So get in the Dragos platform. Then you get connected to the neighborhood keeper, which is community-wide now, what Umair was talking about. And it's not just about threats. It also is about vulnerabilities. And we've also got Department of Energy, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, so CISA, and the NSA opted in as well. And so they, as well as us, as well as the electric ISAC, are able to look across that and add value back, not only to ourselves, but out to the community in such a way that have no idea who the participants are, and we have no access to your data. So nobody in the government could go, oh, utility 2 is so-and-so. Nope, it's technologically irreversible. It's completely anonymized out. It's not just like data masked. It's technologically irreversible. Even if I got an FBI warrant, I couldn't tell you who participant 2 was. And it's not your data. It's not IP addresses and things like that. It's just like high level, like, was this vulnerability seen? Yes or no? Was this threat seen? Yes or no? Kind of data. Look at what the case study recently with the Rockwell vulnerabilities. That was an amazing one, where the US government went and found that a state actor was developing exploits and capabilities against unknown Rockwell vulnerabilities. They brought in Rockwell, who just like knocked it out of the park of, let's look at our products. Let's see, let's validate these vulnerabilities exist. Yep, they do. We need to put out patches and mitigations for it. They brought in Dragos, the government did. We went to work with Rockwell and others to say, okay, well, what does this really mean? Let's develop and enhance detections across it as well. And how relevant is this to our community? And being able to look in a neighborhood keeper, go, who all has these vulnerabilities? Is it like one company or is it a lot? Found out that they were deployed in a lot more places than we realized, and was able to get government the feedback of, hey, this is actually a bigger issue than you might think it is. And it's not just like manufacturing, but it's also showing up in electric and these other places. So now government gets the, is this a priority or not feedback, which it ended up being a higher priority, and deploying the detections out and all the insights out even before the press release was out, even before it was public. So all the participants were getting detections on stuff they didn't even know what a problem was, because it was still sensitive conversations. Government was getting what they need in terms of like, is this actually happening in our community and what the priority is. Rockwell's just being a darn good player to like help work through all those things. That's that collective defense. That's not just like, how do we share indicators? That's threat feeds. That's sticks and taxi stuff that's existed. This is, how do we all share from the same pool in such a way that we can actually interact with each other, get information out there, not just about threats, but also vulnerabilities and assets, and understand prioritization and make sure that we can get information to people ahead of it being an incident. So you start off day one of, I may not even know ICS security. You get to, I get the ICS security resources and training. I get the technology to be able to go and do the things I'm learning about, and I get plugged into the broader community. Then there's the, what's the ongoing interaction? That's then where the OT-CERT comes in, of here's these workshops and ongoing interaction and instant response guides and everything else. And so this is not solving the problem. Like there's a lot of things to do out there, but I feel that this is a big dent in the problem of start to finish. Here's where we can get you massively up leveled very, very quickly. So Don, with that, can you kick into OT-CERT and kind of your view there?
Yeah, so OT-CERT is, it stands for Operational Technology Cyber Emergency Readiness Team. And we've been around since June of 22. That's when we launched. And everything that we do is specifically geared towards small and medium organizations. So where you can go out, you can find information on OT security, but a lot of it is going to be way too sophisticated for small and medium utilities, where, as I have come to know firsthand, a lot of the people that are responsible for security in these small water utilities, small co-ops, some of them cut the grass as well. I heard an anecdotal story, which is true, of a state CIO knew that there was a compromise in one of their small utilities and was calling and calling and calling for hours. And finally, they got a call back and the person said, I'm sorry that I didn't answer your call, but I also have to cut the grass. And that's what I was doing all afternoon. So we really understand that a lot of you in these small utilities, you need specific help. And the first step, I think, is great to enroll in Community Defense Program. When I was at Rockwell Automation and we started our OT-Security program, the first thing that we wanted to do was get the detection, get the response capability built. And so we went for the technology. Then we built the program around that. And that's the purpose of OT-CERT. So OT-CERT, we have more than 1,600 members in 60 countries. And we like to say we don't provide, you can get a lot of what should a small utility do. Here's what you should do. Do this, a big long checklist. We give you the how. So we give you templates, we give you toolkits. We have an OT ransomware tabletop exercise. You can just run the exercise yourself in your own organization for free. We give you everything you need to do that. We give you demonstration videos. When we have seen small organizations that are hit with a cyber attack and they have no logs, so there's no way to tell what happened. We have 2 different video toolkits that show you, type this, click here, check these boxes. You could literally give it to a high school student and they could go and set up your logging in your OT environment. So that's the purpose of OT-CERT. And we also have monthly working sessions because we believe very strongly in community. So we need to work together. It's really important if you're a small utility. It's scary, the thought of, we're going to install this software and then what? I don't have time to even look at the alerts that are coming in. And that's why I think Neighborhood Keeper is so important, as is your membership in OT-CERT, because you're not alone. There are others out there looking out for you. So the way that it works is, once you apply, you become a member, accepted into the Community Defense Program, you build the virtual infrastructure and install the Dragos Platform. It's self-service. We have all of the information out there that you need to do that. But like I said, we don't want you to feel like I'm all by myself. And so we have a CDP specific training program. So we'll have short training videos. And as Rob and Umair both said, we have threat detection, we have vulnerability management, we have asset management. We're going to take one piece at a time and show you in a short training video, how do you use the Dragos platform for that capability? And then you'll watch the video and then come into an OT-CERT interactive jumpstart session where you can ask questions. If you're having issues with your installation, we'll help you to troubleshoot. So this way you're not alone, and you're not just with Dragos either. You're in this session with other community defense participants. In our OT-CERT working sessions, we meet once a month. Any OT-CERT members that want to join can join. And we just talk, ask questions, share best practices. And what's really, really fun for me is that in the past month, we have started a working group, because a group of OT-CERT members, small organizations like yours, they said, hey, we need to know how to talk to our executives about OT cybersecurity. How about if a group of us get together and let's work on this together? And they're doing that. We had another meeting this morning with another OT-CERT member who has another really great idea that we can all work on together. So if you're afraid to get started, I strongly urge you, take advantage of what we're offering here, because there's no reason to be afraid. We're going to be there in OT-CERT to help you. So we have those monthly working sessions. And we don't want you to just put in the tech and then walk away and say, oh, okay, we're good now. We want to help you to build a foundational OT cybersecurity program. We're doing that now with 1,600 different members. And so you'll be a part of this community as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Dawn. I'm going to quickly just cover how to apply to CDP and the requirements. So as you guys have been hearing about the program, I'm sure you've been wondering, where do I go to participate? We covered the requirements overall. 100 million annual revenue in the electric, gas, and water sector. And today, the program is only in the United States. To be able to apply, go to dragos.com/community defense program. You will see a place to register and submit your interest. We will be able to take that application in, verify eligibility, and then look to approve you into the program. You will, once we send the initial pre-approval, you will get a scope of work and terms conditions document to go ahead and sign. Once you get that back to us, we will then look to entitle you into the Community Defense Program, where you will get access to all of the aforementioned capabilities that we discussed today. The other requirements, just as you think about deploying the platform itself, as a reminder, the Dragos Platform is a passive monitoring technology. It requires the setup of a span or a tap within your network. As Dawn and Rob and everyone has mentioned, we do have in the both in the Dragos Academy, once you get into the Community Defense Program Help Center, we've got a full self-service model to be able to even help you understand just the basics of networking, where you may want to consider setting up that network tap or span within your environment, where to deploy the components of the Dragos platform, so that you can really, be able to stand up that Dragos platform and begin kind of your journey around OT cybersecurity. The licenses, as I mentioned before, are the virtual licenses, so they will require virtual infrastructure. We are looking to, in the future, be able to offer some hardware options for purchase. At this time, our focus is on being able to make the program available widely. So we are providing full specifications for hardware. If you don't have hardware yourself, you can go and look to purchase for both platform and sensors of the for the technology. And then as I mentioned, once you've got the signed paperwork back to us, we will look to go ahead and onboard you into the program. So with that, I will transition back to Rob so he can cover call to action, and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll use this slide anyways to do the Q&A because there's already some really good ones coming in. So, but look, here's what I need, because this is the biggest piece. This is the biggest question I get, which just is another reason this community is amazing. And the question is, how do I help? Like, hey, I may not be the small participant. How do I help them? And the sort of the answer is help the small participants is the big one. So look, for qualifying organizations, apply. It's a program that we're going to run for the life of Dragos, and we're not going anywhere. Well-funded, well-resourced company, and I have all intents and purposes to eventually take this company public. Not once have we ever considered selling out, even when there are very lucrative opportunities to do so. It goes back to that safeguarding civilization mission. I have no desire to put OT inside of somebody else's mission broadly around IT security, and it gets pushed to the corner like it always has. There needs to be an independent OT security company. That's us. We're here. So this is for as long as the company's alive, which I'm hoping is like one of those 100-year plus companies, not a couple of years. But long story short, it's the program exists as long as we do. And so you are, once you apply, and as long as you meet the criteria consistently, you get access to tech, the services, the keeper, the Dragos Academy, everything ongoing basis. So there's no cost to you on the Dragos side, but there is cost to you. You're going to have some resources. There are some utilities out there that have the ability to deploy virtual. There's some that are going to have to buy hardware, so they're going to have to make that one-time investment in hardware. There's companies that you're going to need to deploy it. You may have the time to train yourself to then deploy it. It's pretty easy deployment these days. That was not true like 2 or 3 years ago at Dragos, but our product team and our engineering team have done an amazing job making it pretty easy to deploy. But there's time and effort on your side. One of my instructors at SANS has this amazing quote of, hey, even free software is free like puppies. So got to care and maintain it. And so there is time invested by you. So I don't want to position this like it's a free program. It's just free from Dragos. Like there's not a penny that comes back to us, and there never will be. On organizations that don't qualify and you want to improve your cybersecurity, that's just where you come to us at Dragos anyways. I mean, that's where we take you down the normal customer journey. If you've got the resources to go do cybersecurity, we want to talk to you, work with you, talk to you about Dragos Platform, et cetera. But if you don't have the budget and you're still don't meet the criteria, join OT-CERT. There's so much free resources in there, and Don and the team do an amazing job. And so just reach out to dragos.com/OT-CERT registration. It's for asset owners and operators. I don't think, and Don, you can cover this in a second, because I saw it in one of the questions. I don't think we have vendors and governments and so forth in there. It is for asset owners and operators. The reason we do that is we are putting a lot of time and money in it. Like it is a cost center at Dragos. We don't get money back out of it. It's free. And yet we put a lot into it. And so we're just providing it for the asset owners and operators. I think that's right, Don. Yep.
Yeah, and the other thing is we don't want you in these working sessions, it's Chatham House rules, and people really talk about very confidential information about what they're seeing, what's happening, what they're having problems with. And I don't want that to be hampered by feeling like, oh, the government's in here, so I don't really want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and
they are partners. They promote OT-CERT. We have a lot of really good, valuable government partners, but they aren't in those working sessions.
Perfect. Yeah, there's already lots of mechanisms, meetings, work sessions, et cetera, available to interact with the government. We don't need another one to be through a vendor. If you're ISACs and government organizations and similar, yeah, help us get the message out, because this is the trick to the whole thing. Most of the companies that are eligible for this program do not have the people to be involved in the cybersecurity community writ large in such a way that they're seeing LinkedIn posts and X posts and similar to come to webinars like this and get the information. This is where I need other organizations to go out and promote it. Go talk to them. Like, go send them an email if you know who they are. Go, if they're in government circles, go for it. But most of them are going to be like, go talk to your town's water and electric and gas companies. You know, hey, mayor, why don't we put this out for them? Like, that's where it's going to be grassroots. And that's how you reach those organizations. If you're at a larger water, electric, or gas company, go talk to your smaller players. Come up. There's plenty of the ones that I've seen in the electric community, especially, that they're, you know, the LPPCs and others, the larger public power companies and others, will actually go to their smaller providers, their smaller electric companies, and say, hey, we'll actually come down and install it for you, and we'll help out. Like, we can just take a couple of days and just help you get up and going. Like, there's a real ability for the community to take care of the community here. And we're just, like I said, we're not solving everything. We're just taking a big barrier out of the way. And I think now you can do that. So help get the word out and go talk to them. If you're other companies, I've had other companies come to me and say, hey, how do we tack on other things in the program? Could you offer, you know, I'm willing to contribute to class, or I'm willing to, you know, to go do deployment services for some small utilities and so forth. That, like, we're not managing that piece of it. I just think it's awesome that you're doing it. But we're not building this to be some giant program inside of Dragos to be managing vendor relationships and all that, because I need to keep the cost down as much as possible, and we're already doing a lot for free. And so that really is, go talk to them, or launch your own programs, or build on top of it and say, hey, here's my firm and we're willing to do X, Y, and Z, and point people to the program, say, hey, go get involved in the program and we'll come deploy it for you, as an example. So long story short, if you're other vendors or organizations like that, that your role is, your ability to help is go tell people about this program, and then go help those companies, go help the end users. You don't need to help Dragos on it. We're good. Just go directly to the asset owners and operators who need the help and offer it to them. And you'll find that many of them will take that up. So with that, I'm really excited that we've got a bunch of questions. So I think we've probably just going to jump right into those. Some of them we've already answered. So like the OT-CERT sessions, yeah, operators, asset owners and operators. CDP is available only in the US at this time. We'll look to expand it. We want to start here and see how it goes. But where we can find other countries that fit the same criteria of, there are members of the community that are not allowed really to go do it anymore because of being restricted in doing so, that's the areas we would target. So if there's other countries that have very similar to like the Public Utilities Commission structure for these smaller providers and stuff, and I know there are, that's where we'd look to expand it as well. Like, again, the big theme behind this of who got chosen and why is who can't get help. Those are the ones we're starting with. So there's a question here about regulated electric utilities often fall under NERC Civ. Now, a lot of the smaller players wouldn't, but still good question. A lot of the regulated utilities fall under NERC Civ compliance, which traditionally is frowned on, like cloud-based solutions to protect their infrastructure, even though there's some updated requirements coming and so forth. Has Dragos done the research to provide compliance assurance and evidence to utilities to ensure that Dragos meets the NERC Civ requirements and allow to deploy in cloud-based services? Yeah, so first and foremost, the Dragos platform is on-prem. And so it's completely on-premise software. The neighborhood keeper piece, the connecting in, that's where the cloud piece comes in. And the EISAC actually, or not EISAC, sorry, NERC published a document, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that explicitly was addressing Neighborhood Keeper. Now they made it vendor neutral, that anybody that has this type of capability, but it was the way Neighborhood Keeper was the example of if you're doing it this way, it's totally fine, because we're not actually taking the sensitive data out, and it's not identifiable. So NERC has already taken a stance, and it was a deployment guide they wrote on here's exactly how to go about this. So Dragos, like, there is no, when sometimes vendors will say like, my technology is NERC CIP certified. There's no such thing as NERC CIP certified. What we can say is the Dragos platform has gone through NERC CIP assessments and so forth, and is passed. And so the utilities that put it is in NERC CIP high and medium assets today across the country, and has gone through those assessments successfully. And NERC took an official stance on the Neighborhood Keeper piece and said that not only was it a good thing to do, but here's how you can do it, and it's completely compliant. So yeah, definitely covered. Good question. Is CDP available just to U.S. small utility providers? Is it open to U.S. allies and partner service providers? Yeah, just U.S. right now, just asset owners and operators, but partner service providers and similar can go work directly with those smaller providers or smaller asset owners that, hey, go get in the program. Then we're able to do X, Y, and Z for you on top of that. Let's see, what is the minimum entity stat? And by the way, Don and Umair, if there's anything like you're super passionate about, feel free to jump in. I'm just like going down the list because I love the program. But what is the minimum entity staff support that is required for what is being advertised, and how much time per week of those resources? That's going to be utility versus, that's the utility dependent is the short answer. What I would say generally is you're going to want one person in the company to be the point person, right? To be able to take training, to be aware of it, to understand what's going on in their environments, et cetera. And that might be an IT person that you have, might be an IT security person you have, might be somebody that's got IT security as kind of their secondary job, but it's got to be somebody that can take ownership of it, right? Now, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it even with nothing. So like Umair said, we don't want you to put this in and then just like not look at it. But honestly, even if you did, there'd still be value. And the value comes in really two ways, I guess 3 ways. One, you're connected in that collective defense piece now. So there's at least like, if something really is bad in your environment, someone's going to be reaching out. Because even though it's completely anonymized, the way that it works is the trusted advisor. So inside the United States, like other countries that we do this, it's like their governments that can do it. But inside the United States, it's DOE, CISA, and NSA, EISAC, and Dragos. And we can reach out to participants and we go, hey, utility 3, we don't know who you are, but this was bad enough in your environment, you should really be taking a look at this. Or you have this key vulnerability that's not going to go public for a month, and you really need to take a look at this because adversaries are exploiting right now. So there's a reach out that can happen through Keeper, even if you're not doing anything day-to-day with it. Okay. The second reason is you're still going to do assessments every now and then, or some level of validation across your environment, and to be able to pop into the Dragos platform to use that is going to speed up that ability, is also making it where it's not like some 30-minute packet capture you're looking at, but months of data and everything else. And the third reason is if you don't do it where anything else, it now is that black box flight recorder in your environment that if an incident happens, there's gonna be a ton of data in there for the incident response team, for them to go figure out what happened, what's going on, and how to recover. And so I'd prefer you not to just use it in the break glass in case of emergency, but it's like a data historian in that way. I mean, where did data historians first get created? The reason for data historians in the process environment was that black box flight recorder. It wasn't there for process automation enhancements. It was there to be a resource that if something in the plant broke or an explosion took place or whatever, you could go to the data historian to figure out what happened. Over time, data historians started showing a lot of value for predictive analytics and process improvements and efficiencies and similar. They started as that black box. So I'd prefer you use the Dragos platform to go be proactive, but at least have it in there for the reactive piece. So long story short, you need somebody to own it, but you can put as much or as little into the using of it as you'd like. But even if you do almost nothing, it's still going to be incredibly valuable there for at least the recovery piece, the response.
Yeah, and if I can just interject, like look at what just happened with Aliquippa Water and other water utilities. Like we have reached that point where now we have seen small utilities being targeted for no other reason except that they were running an Israeli-built PLC. And so this would provide you with somebody's got your back, because someone would see that we have an attack that is targeting multiple organizations in the same sector or in the same geographic region. And like Rob said, then we can reach out to you. We don't know who you are, but somebody's got your back. And I just think I was at a conference last year with small utilities, and half the people in the room, there were like 300 people, half of them are a team of one. I'm it. I'm the IT person. I'm the security person. I'm everything. The other half, there were two people that played that role. And I don't want, though, if you fall into that, I don't want you to be scared to opt in, because this is going to give you something where you have another set of eyes on what's happening.
Yeah. So the next question is like, how long to implement the Dragos platform for small to medium utility? Let's go by a sensor discussion, because let's say you have 20 sites, you might be deploying 20 sensors. Some utilities that are in this program have like one site, so it's one. So it scales with how many sites you have. But Umair, what's the latest on like how long? Like it's like a couple hours of pairing. What is it?
To really just complete the deployment process itself, it's a couple hours. Really, as long as you've done your planning, you've got the infrastructure in place, you're not going to spend more than a couple hours setting it up. Most of the time is going to be going through the training afterwards and understanding, hey, how do I actually make use of the platform itself? How do I build out my program around it?
Yeah, and this is not, the way we built our technology is off analytics, not like machine learning to do stuff. So if this was like a machine learning based product, you'd have to baseline the environment and train it and tune it. You'd need like a data science team. It'd be impossible to pull value out of it on threat detection, as an example. Because we're doing analytics, there's like a library of things we're looking for. Looking for like the tactics and techniques of adversaries. It doesn't need to be trained on your environment. So it works out of the box on that stuff. And so the longest part, the longest part for you is going to be figuring out, where do you deploy it? Do you have a network diagram, or do you have a managed switch? Do you have the virtual infrastructure? Do you have permission to go to the site? Like the delays in like deployments are because like it's an internal discussion. The Dragos platform technology piece, a couple hours to actually get it up and running. Is there somewhere we can see or play with the platform before becoming part of the CDP? So on our website, there's like demos and videos and things like that you can see. Be perfectly candid, again, just because this could reach thousands or tens of thousands of companies, and we're doing it for free. I'm not putting human resources on everybody. And so there's not a way to go get us to do a demo for you, or there's not a way for us to like jump on a call and walk you through that stuff. It just wouldn't scale with the program. But it's the videos and the recordings and things like that. So there are videos on the website about what it does, data sheets, being able to take a look at it, get videos of the demos, etc. All of that would be on the Dragos.com website. Let's see. Why don't you take this one, Umair? Are state security departments coordinating on this effort to help local utilities get on board with the program?
Yeah, I know Dawn and I have been on multiple calls with folks across the U.S. We're continuing to see what they can be doing to help and get out the word on this program, and we hope to see what kind of additional kind of efforts we can coordinate with them.
Awesome. Let's see. What does a utility need to provide to make CDP operational? Essentially, the true baseline requirements of inside, like are there expectations for configurations that would or would not work? Yeah, you are either going to need virtual infrastructure that can support deploying the virtual sensors and server, or the ability to go buy hardware to put this on. You're going to need networks that are managed. Like you're going to need, or at least in the segments you want to deploy to, you're going to want network switches or taps that have the ability to capture network traffic, because it's a network-based solution. It's like a span port or a tap infrastructure. And then you're going to need to be able to do the configuration out to neighbor keeper. So be able to make configuration change in the firewall to allow that communication to take place. Those are the ones I'm aware of. Umair, anything else?
Hey, I'd like to chime in back on that state question, because I was on, I'm not very good at it.
Okay, perfect. Before we go to the state question, any other technical things, Umair?
No, I think that's about right. All the stuff that you need to know is going to be made available once you're accepted in the program. So all the guides, all the base requirements are all going to be there. We are also making them available to folks that are inquiring at cdpinfo@dragos.com.
Awesome. All right, Don, state.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know I was interrupting that question.
No, all good.
So OT-CERT has a really strong partnership, like for instance, with the Massachusetts State Police, which work in critical infrastructure across the whole state. Other state governments have reached out to us at cdpinfo@dragos.com, and we're working with them individually. And the MSI stack has we have a very strong partnership with them as well through OT-CERT. So it varies, but that's exactly what Rob was talking about. Tell your state governments to reach out, because we need to get the word out.
Yep, perfect. Can the system understand DMP3 Modbus protocols, and how does this compare to NRCA's Essence platform? Yeah. So the Dragos platform, that's one of its specialties, is the ICS and OT protocols. So there's hundreds of them in there, from DMP3, Modbus TCP, ICCP, Ethernet SIP protocols, OSI soft PI, and historian protocols. So like there's hundreds of the protocols in there that understand all those interactions. That's what they're using to pull out the insights for you. In terms of NRCA, we work closely with them, and I do believe they're going to be promoting this out as well to their members. Essence really is a different thing. I know it's positioned a lot of different ways, but it also takes in things like, it's really focused, I believe, I'm not an Essence expert, I believe Essence is really focused on essentially like taking metering data and taking like more like high level like physics data and being able to correlate that. They've talked about it being like network detection and stuff before. I've not personally seen it used that way. I think that is a good conversation though for internal to NRCA or other people that have Essence. I'm just not well positioned to speak to it very well. But on the Dragos platform side, yeah, it's built for ICS networks by ICS security people, and so it understands all those communications and records and is able to map out for you what it has and be able to look for those threats and assets. I think the data sheets and so forth on the website will be very useful. Just go to dragos.com, click on like the platform page. Tons of materials there. There's even a protocol list out there of like the major protocols it supports. But it's been deployed in all these different environments. We have like over 300 customers around the world and all in industrial infrastructure. So it's covering quite a bit of that. Through the CDP, is there security awareness training offered for operators that's more focused on, here's what like suspicious cyber activity, watch out for your OT environment. So in the Dragos Academy, we have a wide variety of training and materials. It's not all focused on any one topic. I've asked before, I don't know if it's in there already, but I've asked for that kind of operator focused training. So I'll double check on that. If it doesn't exist today, it will. It's one of the things we get a request a lot in there. So actually, Umair, could you hit up, look at that, getting tasked on a call. What a jerk I am. But if you could hit up Kate and let's get, because like Michael Hoffman or Mark Hurd or somebody who's an operator would be really good to like make that training for other operators. And that'd be a great like hour-long little video or something. So Chloe will get that done. If it's not there already, we'll get that done. Question on qualification for the program. The town itself has revenue greater than 100 million, but our water department has revenue of 7 million and sewer department of 4 million, which are separate enterprises. Would we qualify? Yes. Yeah, we're not trying to look at like your town revenue. Now, if you apply and you get rejected because that's the number we found online, and you know it's not accurate, just follow back up. There's like a challenge process, if you will, of, hey, actually, I know what you found on the internet, but here's why that's not accurate. Because that's what we have to use as like the public filings. And so if you know that that's not accurate, by all means, just follow back up. But yes, you absolutely qualify. It's based on individual entities, not, because there's some towns, as an example, where electric and water are combined in the budget from the town, but they are absolutely completely separate entities. You would still totally qualify if the separate entities amount to less than 100 million. Are you partnering with local system integrators that will be involved in implementation and monitoring the platform? Often small electric companies rely on the integrators. Yeah, integrators are awesome. We're not partnering with any of them, but we're asking them to go partner with those companies. So there's not a partner program that we're launching the Dragos side, because we have to manage those relationships, and it would take resources. What we're telling them is, hey, integrators, you're important. Go talk to those small providers, have them sign up and get into the CDP program, and then you can get all the access and go do that for them and so forth. So we want and need those players, but we want it to be done through the asset owner and operator. Will the program extend to municipal wastewater facilities? Yeah, as long as it's fitting in the qualifications, I would consider wastewater part of, like, when you say water utilities. So I know that's kind of generic, because there's water's a lot more than that, electric's a lot more than that, but like that vertical, the answer is yes. We may qualify this year, but won't next year. We may not be able to pay for the platform next year and would decommission the system. Is it worth to deploy for 11 months now if we won't qualify? Not sure how long it takes to deploy. Yeah, I would say follow back up and let's figure out like what that line is and so forth. Like we want to like have criteria, but we don't want to become overly strict about the criteria in a way that gets in the way of the mission. So if it's like you barely don't qualify again, like there's an exception process. But if it's like you go from 70 million today and you expect for some reason you're getting like 300 million next year, like then it's like, hey, go have a normal customer conversation. But if it's just like a natural trajectory, like we can look at that, and it's something that we're talking about internally. So feel free to have a conversation with us. If you feel like just know, like you're not going to be able to do that, like it's going to be much higher. As much as I love getting out there and doing stuff, I don't know that I'd be deploying technology for an 11-month window. What I would tell you is you may join CDP this year and say, look, I'm just going to take access to the Dragos Academy resources. Like we don't want people to slice and dice it, but as long as you're transparent to go like, look, I can't because I'm not going to be in the program next year. Would you guys make an exception for me next year? Have that conversation with us. If we say yes, good to go. If we say no, for whatever reason, I'll leave it to the team. Then you should say, okay, that's fine, but I still want access to Dragos Academy, and we would totally do that. So if someone tries to come to us and like slice and dice, we're not doing that. It's like, this is the program. But if there's a reason, if there's logic, like we're logical people. And so you're trying to help your community, you're trying to do the right thing, we're going to try to help you. But I do think the way you're positioning it sounds like it'd be a pretty natural exception process though. All right. We did it, and we're at time. So that's got through all the questions. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. Again, the biggest thing that you all can do is, if you're able to be in the program, go in the program. If you're not, go tell people about it. It'll take all of us to get the message out to the community. But this is our attempt to try to help the community, because the community is just, I mean, I remember 7 years ago when I started the company, talking to the industry saying, hey, buy into us, believe in the vision where we're going, and I'm going to make sure we take care of the community. The community has taken care of us. We are taking care of the community. To me, it feels like we're paying it forward. So thanks again for all of you. Thanks for all of you that are on the front lines of this, just trying to keep our infrastructure running. Like, I have 2 sons, and it's greatly benefited by the fact that they have clean water, electricity, and gas. So thanks so much for all of you and what you do for our communities. All right, Umair.
All right. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining. Hope you have a good rest of the day.